Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Aine Dixon, a trainer with Sour World, and I also run my own social enterprise called Sustainable Youth Involvement Foundation. I've been with Sour World, it's now coming to 4 years, training different skills that include paper bags making, reusable sanitary towels, and diapers. I've seen what these skills can really do, the impact in the society, reflecting on the most recent project that we had with the Sour World, the Ujana Coffee Project. We've seen how these skills have been able to at least help the coffee farmers use these skills and products out of these skills for their own personal use and also run them as businesses. So, all you farmers out there and all you people that feel that you need an extra income or you need something that could help you save some money, these are the right skills that you should be looking for. Particularly this time round, I'll be taking you through how to make a reusable sanitary towel. Of course, you can choose to run it as a business or for your own personal use, which will help you save some good money. When we are making reusable sanitary towels, of course, we have different materials and why specifically those different materials and the different tools that we use. Of course, for the tools, they will not differ much from what we all know that the tailors use. But for the material, we're going to look at each and every material specifically and why we choose that material. I'll start, there are mainly 3 materials, and these include the PV, which we commonly know as ginger material. It's mostly used in making school uniforms, especially skirts and dresses and trousers. Then we also have the fleece material. It's more or less like a baby blanket, very comfortable. And also we have the baby mat. This one is mainly, it's a kavera, but it's mainly used in labor wards. And the reason why we use these 3 specific materials, one, the baby mat helps to retain the stain so that the stain doesn't go through. Then the absorbent, which is the fleece, it's mainly to absorb the stain and keep it in. And of course for the PV, it's a top covering. You can choose. Doesn't mean that if you don't have these kind of materials, you cannot make a reusable sanitary towel. Instead of the PV, you can use any African fabric, commonly known as kitenje. But of course, that will depend on your taste. Because the beauty about these hands-on skills and products that are made by ourselves, you have the opportunity to choose what you feel better with. Now, the other thing, these materials come in different colors. For instance, you can have the baby mat in blue. You can have it in lime green. You can have the PV in blue with different shades. It could be sky blue, it could be navy blue, it could be dark blue. I mean, it all goes back to the colors that you prefer. But personally, as a trainer who has been in this for long and also producing these sanitary towels, I advise that you use bright colors because bright colors will tell you when you're washing your sanitary towel, whether it's clean enough or you still have to wash it more. That is not easily gotten with colors that are a little bit mixed and dark. So that is on the side of the materials. For the tools, Like I said, we do not differ from what the tailors use. You have the scissors, you have the tape measure, you have the buttons, you have the needles. So it doesn't really differ much from what the tailors use. And of course, we also need the threads. Now, with the buttons, there are different types of buttons. As it is in colors and in designs, we have what we call the snap buttons. I don't know if it can be seen very well, but you can tell why they are called snap buttons. And we also have these normal buttons that we all know, that they are mostly used on shirts, dresses, the ones that you stitch using your own hands. Now for the snap buttons, you'll need a machine. So the first step when you're making a reusable sanitary towel is to have a shape. And that shape, you start with a piece of paper. You draw your shape, which in other words we term as the map. Now how do you do that? Let's take an example of this paper. It might be a little bit bigger, but you can use an A3 size or an A4 size. Now you fold it twice just to get the center of the paper. Now after that, you measure from the center, because the whole height, we're looking at 12 inches. Inches, not centimeters. So you measure, if we're looking at 12 inches, if we are looking at 12 inches, it means half from the center going downwards will be 6. You mark 6. And then you go up from the center upwards, you mark 6. And then to the length, we need 10. So it means both sides we are going to take 5 inches. And when you're measuring, your tape measure starts from this very point where the metallic part is, not from inch 1. So after doing that, you have these 4 markings apart from the center. Now we need to get the wings. By the wings, I mean this part where the buttons are. How do you get the wings? From each point, the 4 points, you measure. Now, for instance, if you're looking at the length, you measure 1.5 inches downwards, and then another 1.5 inches upwards. So meaning you have this point and this point. What you do on this side is the same thing that you do on this side. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. You do the same on the height, but in opposite directions. Opposite from what you did with the length. So these are our markings that will give us the shape. And how shall we get that shape? You can choose to have a shape of a curvy sanitary towel, or you can choose to have it more of a square form. So in this case, if you want it curvy, you'll curve from this point to this point. come inwards, curve to that point, curve to that point. The same on the other side. Inwards to that point, to that one, and you have your shape. Now, after doing that, you cut it out. And when we are cutting, it's not the paper that moves. It's you, the person cutting, who moves. Now we have our shape. After getting this shape, you get the material. In this case, I already have my pre-cut material. But if you haven't done that, you get all the three pieces, all the three materials. The fleece, the PV, and the baby mat. You stick them together using these pins. This will help you when you're cutting for the material not to move. Then we get our shape and place it on the material and also pin it. You can choose to pin all the 4 corners or just 2. And you do the cutting. Of course, when you're cutting, you leave some allowance for stitching. Now we have all the three materials under the shape that we cut first. Now, underneath our sanitary towel, reusable sanitary towel, there's what we call a liner. And that liner has to be in between, not exceeding the edges of our shield. The whole of this is called a shield. Now the liner has to be in between. So it means if you had measured 10 from one wing to the other, you're going to reduce at least 2 from each side, 2 inches from each side. And then the same, 2 from up of the height. It means our liner has to be in between like that. And a liner is made out of the fleece material. Remember I told you why we use the liner is because, rather we use the fleece material because it absorbs the stain. And you can choose to have 1 liner or 2 liners. Under normal circumstances, there are reusable sanitary towels that we make, and we term them as beginners or starters and finishers, especially for the beginners when it's the first and second days of the menstruation cycle. And then the finishers are those that are used on the last days. And those ones, at least you can have 1 liner underneath. So in this case, we're going to have our liner. We're going to cut our liner. This time round, we are going to use 1 liner like this, but you can choose to have 2 liners put together, like I explained earlier on. Now, we take away our shape or our map, bring our liner, and start stitching. We start with the liner because it's what is going to go on the inside. Of course, if you have an advantage of knowing how to use a sewing machine, this would be much faster. I use running stitches because they cover more space in a short time. Now our liner is complete. Now we bring the rest of our materials. Now, the way you arrange these materials is very important because after stitching, we are going to have to flip inside out or turn the inside out so that the baby mat goes on the inside and the liner, where you stitch the liner from, goes on the inside. So first, it depends on how you want to put it. But first facing out of my face is the PV, rather the baby mat. Second is the PV, and last is the fleece material that also has a liner that is facing my end. And please, when you're making this reusable sanitary towel, make sure your materials match in color. Remember, I told you about bright colors and also the color of the thread that you use. Don't use pink material and then use a blue thread. Should be some sense of flowing and matching. Now, when you're stitching, please make sure you leave some provision on the end. Don't stitch at the very, very edge. Sometimes you might find that your material is not holding together. You can use the safety pin, this type, just like how we did it with the paper. And my other advice is that you use the bigger hand needles, not the small ones. Now, when you're done stitching going round, you do not close in from where you started from. You leave some space to help us flip the inside out. And this is how it happens. First you lock. And then we flip our pad inside out. Of course, you'll do the finishing at the extreme, but where you have cases like this, now this is what I was telling you, that when you're stitching, you don't stitch to the edges, but still, even if this happens, you can still have another running stitch on the surface after already you've flipped inside out. At this point, your reusable sanitary towel is ready for use. Like I said, again, this is caused by stitching to the extreme edges. But even if this happens, you can still also have another running stitch covering this back in. Thank you so much, and I hope that these skills are taken on, because they do not only save us, or rather help us to save money, but they also protect our environment. And of course, protect us from different skin diseases, different diseases that we might not even be knowing that come with the ones that are disposable. Thank you so much.